The night was young in Amityville, Long Island. A cold November breeze swept through the streets, rustling fallen leaves. Inside Henry's bar, locals sought warmth and camaraderie. Suddenly the door swung open, interrupting the murmur of conversation. A young man, Ronald DeFeo Jr., stumbled in, his face pale and drawn.
You gotta help me. I think my mother and father are shot.
His words hung in the air, thick with disbelief and growing horror. The patrons exchanged uneasy glances. This was Amityville, a quiet, unassuming town. Violence on this scale was unheard of, but DeFeo's desperation was undeniable. Something was terribly wrong. A small group, led by DeFeo, cautiously approached 112 Ocean Avenue. Under the harsh glare of the interrogation room lights, Ronald DeFeo Jr. cracked. The pressure was immense, the room stifling, and the detectives relentless in their pursuit of the truth. His initial story, a desperate fabrication about a mob hit, crumbled under the weight of its own inconsistencies. He had hoped that blaming the mafia would divert attention from himself, but the detectives were not so easily fooled. The details were hazy, his alibi non-existent. Every time he tried to piece together a coherent story, it fell apart like a house of cards. The detectives could see through his lies, and Ronald knew it. The more he talked, the more convinced detectives became. Ronald DeFeo Jr. wasn't just a witness to this horrific crime, he was the perpetrator. The evidence was mounting against him, and his attempts to mislead the investigation were futile. His demeanor shifted, his initial panic replaced by a chilling calmness. It was as if he had accepted his fate, or perhaps he was simply resigned to the inevitable.
They made me do it. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a deep-seated fear.
He confessed to the murders, his words delivered with a detached matter-of-factness that sent shivers down the spines of seasoned investigators. It was as if he was recounting a mundane event, not the brutal slaying of his own family. But his explanation, a tale of voices whispering in the night, urging him to kill, only deepened the mystery. These voices, he claimed, were relentless, driving him to commit the unthinkable. The story seemed too fantastical, too convenient. The detectives were skeptical, and rightfully so. Was this just another ploy to escape the consequences of his actions? Was it a desperate attempt to plead insanity, a calculated move by a cold-blooded killer? The courtroom buzzed with speculation as the trial unfolded, each new revelation adding to the intrigue. Or was there something more, something truly sinister at play? The possibility of a darker force at work lingered in the minds of everyone involved, leaving them to wonder if they had uncovered the full truth. The case of Ronald DeFeo Jr. remains one of the most chilling and perplexing in criminal history, a haunting reminder of the thin line between reality and madness. Ronald insisted, his voice a hollow whisper. He claimed to have been tormented by voices, demonic whispers that urged him to turn on his family. These voices, he said, belonged to the house, to a malevolent presence that had taken root within its walls. The investigators listened, their faces impassive. They had heard it all before, countless variations on the same desperate theme, but there was something about Ronald's demeanor, a chilling conviction in his eyes that gave them pause. Could he truly believe what he was saying? The idea of a demonic influence, while far-fetched, held a certain morbid fascination for the public. The story of the Amityville Murders, already sensational, took on a supernatural sheen fueled by rumors and speculation. While Ronald maintained his innocence, claiming demonic possession, investigators delved into the DeFeo family history, searching for a more earthly explanation. What they uncovered was a tangled web of dysfunction and resentment. Ronald's relationship with his father, a domineering and abusive man, was particularly fraught. The two clashed frequently, their arguments escalating into physical confrontations. Ronald, it seemed, harbored a deep-seated resentment towards his father, a resentment that extended to the rest of his family. There were whispers of financial troubles, of Ronald's growing frustration with his limited prospects. Some speculated that he killed his family for their inheritance, a desperate act to escape the shadow of his father and forge his own path. Despite Ronald's confession and the seemingly compelling evidence against him, doubts lingered. Some investigators, troubled by inconsistencies in his story, wondered if he had acted alone. The sheer brutality of the murders, the methodical execution of an entire family, suggested a level of cold-bloodedness that seemed at odds with Ronald's claims of demonic possession. Journalists, eager to capitalize on the public's fascination with the case, offered up their own theories. Some suggested that Ronald had been involved in a drug deal gone wrong, while others pointed to possible connections to organized crime. As the years passed, Ronald DeFeo Jr. became a macabre celebrity, his story told and retold in books, movies, and television shows. The fascination with his case grew, drawing in true crime enthusiasts and horror fans alike. Each new adaptation added its own twist, further entangling the narrative in a web of speculation and sensationalism. But with each retelling, the truth seemed to become more elusive. The lines between reality and fiction blurred, leaving the public to wonder what really happened on that fateful night. The media frenzy only added to the confusion, with each outlet presenting its own version of events. Ronald himself changed his story numerous times, implicating others and casting himself as a victim of circumstance. His shifting narratives painted a picture of a man desperate to escape the consequences of his actions, willing to say anything to avoid accountability.
In one version, I claimed that my sister Dawn, driven to a murderous rage by our father's abuse, had committed the murders, forcing me to kill her in self-defense. This story painted me as a tragic hero, caught in a nightmarish situation beyond my control. In another, I insisted that I had been manipulated by a satanic cult, forced to participate in a ritualistic sacrifice. This version tapped into the fears and anxieties of the era, playing on the public's fascination with the occult and the unknown.
Each new version of events only muddied the waters, making it impossible to separate fact from fiction. The courtroom became a battleground of competing narratives, with each side presenting its own interpretation of the truth. The detectives and lawyers struggled to piece together a coherent story from the conflicting accounts. The truth, it seemed, lay buried beneath layers of deceit, fueled by Ronald's own desire to evade responsibility for his actions. The dark, eerie house at night became a symbol of the mystery and horror that surrounded the case, a place where the line between reality and fiction was forever blurred. The letters and writings left behind only added to the enigma, leaving us to wonder if we will ever truly know what happened. The Amityville Murders remain one of the most perplexing and enduring true crime stories of our time. Was Ronald DeFeo Jr. a cold-blooded killer driven by greed and resentment? Or was he, as he claimed, a victim of forces beyond his control, a pawn in a supernatural game of chess? The answer, lost somewhere in the labyrinth of Ronald's ever-shifting narratives, may never be known for certain. But the legacy of that night in Amityville continues to haunt us, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart and the mysteries that may never be fully explained.